And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by Devin Tracy, who was recently banned off of Patreon for the second time. He actually won his appeal the first time. And we're going to talk about it, along with a bunch of other things. But overall, how you doing, Devin?
Oh my God, Sean, what has happened to the world? Thank you for having me on. You are correct. Patreon has done it again. I got that dreaded email from a woman. It had to be a woman. I don't know. And I speculate her hair is blue. I know that you recently have discussed the purple-headed woman, Asian, over at that Vice thing. Wasn't that it?
Yes, that I, in my first video, because apparently I can't see colors, labeled the blue-haired feminist.
It's the same difference. I mean, I'd say purple is just an extreme shade of blue. But isn't it amazing the listening to her do that pig noise when she says white, or I
Oh,
can't even do it.
you,
But
you know, I
it's,
got to find that video as one of the things for sure.
I mean, there's something really catchy about it, viral about it, because she ironically looks like a pig and very much embodies a pig when making that sound. And so I think that's the awkwardness. But I think she's getting like mini famous off that. Definitely like a celebrity F list kind of fame. It's
I
troubling.
mean, nobody's doing better off of that than Vince Dow. Like he blew up. He was at 19,000 subscribers the day that
Right.
that panel came out, and he's almost at
Mm.
100K if he hasn't gotten it already.
Yeah, you
Like
reached out to him, but like, what does he do?
he's like a college kid. I thought he was like 25 years old. He was like, but he's like a college kid that does some like YouTube streaming or whatever. He's been around for a little while, but they
Well,
just bought him because
let me
he's
date myself here.
conservative.
I think he's the second coming of William Hung. He has the
Oh,
same similar vibe.
I don't know who that is. So now you are dating yourself.
Okay, William Hung, he was a Berkeley student, freshman, who went on a little show called American Idol. Type it in. Go William Hung American Idol. It's one of the greatest song renditions ever. He spastically came out and sang a Ricky Martin song, and it was like iconic. But I mean,
Oh, She Bangs. I do remember this.
exactly. She bangs. Definitely.
Oh my God. That is a
What was
throwback.
wait, when Ricky Martin sang that, he actually was pretending to be straight? Like, what is he talking about? She bangs.
Yes. He
Okay.
he was doing that for a long time.
Hmm.
Like it was a thing. And I remember it was considered like horribly rude to call him a gay, but it was still like the 90s and 2000s when that was like more acceptable.
You know
But
who's gone crazy gay? Sam Smith. Like, he was very gay for a while, but now he's like, horseshoe gay. Like, he's so gay that he's just coming up with new words to describe how gay he is. He's getting peed on in a video. I'm gonna cover that video. I'm gonna do a reaction video to his music video where he gets peed on.
yeah, I've seen the clips of that. Unfortunately, it's interesting because he came out as gay, but it was like it was back when you came out as gay and you were like, "Hey, I'm normal," right? Like I'm
Mm.
just a normal guy who happens to be into other dudes, and now he's like a they them, like the whole thing. He went full in on
Yeah.
the mixed identities or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, did you hear him say they were talking about he wants to be a fisherman when he retires at some point and just fish, which is the weirdest thing ever, but somebody said, "Oh, you wanna be a fisherman?" And he goes, "No, a fisher them." Literally
Uh,
says it twice. He says fisher them, like, not like as a joke, like, he doesn't wanna
uh,
gender fishermen.
oh no, just ban him.
I know, fisher them is probably the line, like, that's where the sidewalk ends, like, that's it. Like, we gotta stop and, like, arrest people now.
Yes, that's he's got to go with that. Like that's a wrap.
Oh my
Like
god. But Sam Smith is just, what's crazy is, to me, like, I'm from LA. I've seen a lot of gays out there, like West Hollywood, but those dudes were all super in shape, and like a lot of them are dedicated to their bodies. And so I don't understand, just because you're gay, why is that an excuse to be some sloppy fat dude?
you know what, you are right about West Hollywood. I went there with I went there with a friend of mine who happens to be a gay. Great guy
We call
from
those a
college
boyfriend.
though.
We call that a boyfriend. But
No,
go ahead.
no, no.
Okay.
And he wanted to go to West Hollywood because we went
Mm.
to LA. And by the way, LA, I went probably when the homeless thing really started to become a huge problem because I remember trying to parallel park in a space and there was a homeless person sleeping in this space.
He was helping you,
Yeah. Well, I
guiding you
I
into
almost
this.
he didn't move at all.
Oh my God,
Like,
they run the
I,
joint. I know.
I almost hit him, but I didn't even see him. I just felt like something was wrong because it's like free parking in I think it was off of Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Boulevard. I don't even
Oh
know.
God.
It was near the Scientology thing, and I got
Mhm.
out of the car and I saw him, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I almost killed this guy, and he didn't even know I existed. Like he still didn't know I was there when I was looking at him, like dead in the
If you
face.
had killed him, let's say it was late at night, no one was really around, would you have just kept driving? Or are you afraid of, like, the security cameras and, like, the
Yeah.
CCTV kind of a
Oh yeah, it's a rental. Like you gotta take off. Like they're not gonna pin that on me.
I mean, have you pre-thought this out, or would you be caught in a moral dilemma if you just, like, ran over a homeless dude?
I mean, look, it's his fault. Like nobody told you to park in a free parking space.
True.
But
Yeah, it's
but
gross, man. You should go downtown. If you wanna see, like, human refuse tourism, just downtown LA is next level. I mean, it is psychotic how bad LA is. I don't know why I'm going back there.
yeah. But to get to the West Hollywood part. So we
Mhm.
go to one of these bars, and every person in this bar, like I was like by far the ugliest person in the bar, right? And it
Damn.
actually felt quite depressing. But every person in the bar had like superhero muscles, like from
Mhm.
when they show up on set. Like
They're in
they
tank
look like
tops, right?
yeah, or no shirts at all. Like
Yeah.
they look like digital muscles.
Mhm.
Like I was like, that's not real. Like you can't have that. I don't believe it. I don't believe it exists.
God,
Like it's a bunch of gays on steroids. It has to
it's
be.
insane. It's insane. Like, that's what it is. If you have a six pack, like, I'm gonna call you gay. Like, or at least you're highly suspicious. You're in that camp. A four pack, you might be bi. Um, like, it's just too much, man. It's like you're worshiping the male body, even though it's your own. It's still you worshiping the male body.
I mean,
So,
if you think about it, it makes perfect sense because like
mhm.
gay dudes are dudes, so they're attracted to looks more than anything.
Mm.
So like they work super hard to make themselves physically attractive.
And the weird thing is, it's like Sam Smith in this video, he comes out and he has all these like lean dancer gay dudes behind him, and even trans people because he's got to be uber gay. And it's like, Sam, you're aware that you don't look anything like your backup dancers. So you are telling us that's the model for attractiveness in a man. And it's like one of these things is not like the other. And the sad thing is, this dude is rich and famous, so it doesn't matter that he's a fat slob. And he didn't used to be. That's the thing. The guy's like 30 years old. What
Right.
I don't understand is, if you're a multimillionaire and your looks are a part of your brand, how do you not have a trainer and a chef and like someone helping you out with that?
He
Like,
just he just let himself go and he's like, I have money, it doesn't matter. Like
but he's gonna
essentially.
go into a crate. Like, he's on a course to be super fat. Like, imagine 5, 10 years, Sam Smith. It's gonna be a blimp at that point. I mean,
Well,
I,
he could afford to get that taken care of cosmetically.
right? He has fuck you money, but he's just eating it. He's just like, fuck you and your. I mean, because I think he thinks he's like a voluptuous woman from the, what was that period of art, like the Renaissance or whenever, where they were just all about those fat, curvy women. That's how he's
Right.
dressing now. It's like, Sam, what are we doing here?
I
You're
I got somebody named Blake L who's saying AIU, how to watch your videos the best way.
the best way. Okay, so yeah, back to my bitching. Patreon are scumbags. I've been with them for 10 years. I had 1,000 patrons. I used to have more, but of course, Corona and, people, I don't know, life happens. But they got rid of me. So now I've switched over to Subscribestar. And so there are two ways to see me. One, you can see me with Gavin McInnes and everyone over at censored.tv, which is, it's kind of like a bastion of misfits and banned human beings who have collected over there. But censored.tv, and if you go there, you use the coupon code AIU, that gets you a discount. That helps me get some money. Either that, or you go to subscribestar.com/atheism. And Subscribestar, I don't even heard from them. Not once have I gotten an email or anything from them. Like, they've been good. They've been good to me. They've been good to Sargon. Remember Sargon? He
Yeah.
dropped an N bomb, like, not even in a bad one. It was towards a white dude.
It was
But
towards like alt-right chatters. Like he was saying they were acting the way that they label black people,
it was
essentially.
it was really crazy the way they did that. And It actually reminds me of, have you ever seen The Life of Brian, Monty Python?
I've seen
Dating
Monty
myself.
Python, but it was a long time ago.
Okay, well, they have a whole scene in there where a guy's getting stoned to death for saying the word Jehovah. And he's talking about the word and he's using it like out of context, or he's just talking about having said the word, and then he says the word and then they stone him to death. And it's like, so that's the world we live in. But yeah, those are the best ways to see it. It's all HD. If you sign up at Censored, you get a ton of content, and those dudes are always cranking stuff out. Or you could sign up and pick a tier over at Subscribestar and hook me up. Otherwise, people like me will go the way of the dodo.
Now,
And
now
people,
you're
Mhm.
also on Rumble, and you put out a longer video explaining your whole censorship stuff. That is linked in the description. Every one of his links is linked in the description, but it's crucial that you guys use promo code AIU if you go to Censored TV. Otherwise, Devin doesn't get a penny, and it gets you a discount. But yeah, like, go follow him on Rumble, go follow him on Subscribestar, pledge if you're a patron, and like, you were on Patreon before and you're wondering where your content is, it's there. Like, so please
Yeah,
sign up, but also follow him on his other social media stuff, so you
Twitter.
can actually hear from him when stuff like this happens.
Yeah, and I tried to explain my situation in 10 pictures. So I did that. It's on Twitter. It's on my Instagram. Because I know people. For a lot of people, it's like, dude, okay, Patreon screwed you. I don't know the details. It is pretty messed up what they did, but like for me, it's a devastating, sort of life altering, life ruining event. So I'm kind of panicked about it. Patreon essentially came in and protected my patrons, who are consenting adults who want to view my content. They're protecting them from me and what I have to say. That's how noble they are. Like, Patreon's falling on the sword because they think I'm a hideous human being who has said something terribly wrong. But here's the thing: it's so bad that they're afraid to tell me what it was that I said. And I'm sitting here going, how am I supposed to appeal this, guys, and give you my side of this if you're not telling me what I did to violate your terms? And the answer is, I didn't say anything to violate their terms, because their terms are like, are you calling for violence against people? It's like, absolutely not. This is the thing that I usually complain about. It's like, someone did something violent, I am complaining about it. I'm condemning them.
Right. By the way,
I don't know how you do it, Sean.
I'm scrolling through
Yeah, exactly.
this tweet thread right now, and these images are hilarious.
Exactly. And I used AI to make these images. And, I'm trying to give you the elevator pitch of what has happened here. But it's so frustrating. They're literally ghosting me now for the last 2 weeks. And, I appealed once before, so I was holding out hope. And I appealed and was like, guys, I'm not racist. Some of my best friends are black. My middle name is in Zulu. My grandfather's a famous African musicologist. I love Michael Jordan, guys. Come on. It was like literally speaking their language, trying to appease probably like a 25-year-old blue hair. And
Right.
it worked miraculously. But this time, apparently I said something about Emmett Till. So, I mean, I posted 3 videos about Emmett Till leading up to this banning. The last video I posted was about Emmett Till. It was about a guy communicating with the ghost of Emmett Till, and they had a conversation. And apparently something in that video displeased someone over there. I'm guessing she just saw the movie, the Emmett Till movie.
Right. Well, it's also, you've been with them for a long time, and a lot of people, I've seen them on Twitter, are
Mhm.
saying things like, "Hey, why were you even on Patreon?" and all that. But the thing is, it's like, you already were banned off of YouTube, so the way that you would connect with over 1,000 paying members of your audience
Mhm.
is through Patreon. Like, if you could have ported them over to Subscribestar before, which you
Yeah.
did try to do, it's not like you didn't have a Subscribestar,
Mhm.
then you would have done that. The problem is there's like no real way to reach all of these people.
Right. You're never going to get 100% to go over. And the thing is, yeah, I've had Patreon since 2013, and this has been like bread and butter how I pay the rent for a decade. And so I'm not a big fan of what they're doing, but look at their other bans. Like, it was Lauren Southern for, what was she doing? Like, blocking rescue ships in the Mediterranean. Like, it was kind of a bogus charge against her for
Right.
that, but at least there was some sort of like, look, you're taking action that's harming people. I mean, it's whatever. What they did with Sargon was ridiculous, but they can't even tell me what I've said. And I know
Well,
what I say. It's
the
nothing's bad. Mhm.
the thing that so like I obviously I like Lauren and like I would prefer for her to have not been banned from Patreon, but their argument there was that her behavior in the real world was the problem, and
Mhm.
they said this is the standard, don't worry about it, nobody else is going to get banned on frivolous charges, and then they banned Sargon for something that's not his behavior in the real world.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
so,
it's
like, they totally changed it. By the way, somebody, Rayfield Wright says, "Hey, Devin, it's
mhm,
Rayfield," and then there's some Asian characters.
mhm.
Uh, it's kind of cold outside today. How is this possible? I thought AJW was just your other channel.
No, but I mean, see, that's the thing. Sean and I have similar interests in sort of content. We have a something in our DNA that things don't sit that well with us. Like, what would you call it? Injustice, or just racism, or just some of the messed up things happening in society. And there's sort of a hole in the market of people willing to call that out with precision. And so we've always had overlap and synced up like that. And I don't know how he does it. Like, this dude is like a magician. He's dancing through raindrops. He's not shying away from controversial topics, and yet he apparently has paid someone off, or he knows someone.
I
Mm,
think I think I think YouTube, if you don't call people names, which I try
Yeah,
to avoid,
hook
then
knows.
you can get away with talking about a lot. And like you also have to be really you have to be really specific when you speak.
Yeah. Well,
Like
I am. That's the thing. Like, I'm challenging them. The reason Patreon will not tell me why they think I violated the hate speech is because they know they have no case. I guarantee you. And if they were to say it's this line from this video, it would be so laughable that I'd march it up to like Tim Pool or Steven Crowder and be like, guys, can you please call these MFers out on this? This is how ridiculous they are. Because they have
right.
no right. And Jack Conte is like, look, this is a sobering responsibility. The authority to take away someone's income, like, we never want to get between creators and their audience. Like, that's the whole reason we're here, is to give you a voice as a creator and to empower you. Oh, and also to control your ability to speak and earn a living. We'll just snatch that away at any moment.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
insane.
By the way, somebody's saying as a longtime subscriber and follow of
Mhm.
yours, I'm talking about a long time ago when you used to actually talk about religion. No matter where you go, your loyal fans will follow you. Love you, no homo.
No
So
homo.
that's the
Well, that's a
bloody
beautiful thing.
talker.
Yeah, and what's crazy is there's guys like that out there, and it's so cool, and it's weird. Like, I'll get emails of like, I listened to you through high school, and it's like, and now they're married with kids or whatever, and it's great. It's just it's hard to communicate with those guys because they're like this lost tribe of Israelites who are just like spread out, and I don't have a big following, social media or anything. So that's where the cancel culture comes in. They take your money, they take your platform, and so
Yeah.
now what am I doing? Posting a video to Rumble that gets 100 views? It's
Yeah,
just like,
the Rumble thing is really strange because like I mirrored a Rumble and all of that, and I'm not against Rumble, but the like the monetization that people who are getting paid on Rumble are explaining versus like what I'm actually seeing on the back end, and I'm sure you see this too. It's
mhm.
just not aligned. Like I hear people saying Rumble pays more than YouTube,
Oh, yeah.
and then I go to my Rumble and I've earned less than $1 since I've been mirroring
Of
all
course.
of my videos, like 800 plus videos.
Yeah. Oh, I've been getting screwed out of that stuff forever. Like, I have a music video channel called Tracy Remix. It has, millions of views. I haven't seen a cent from that. Now, that's because I don't have the copyright on anything. But like, I made a video that has almost 4 million views, and I haven't seen a dime. Not that I was expecting it. That's not why I made the thing, but it's just, I don't know. It's ridiculous.
You know,
As-
there's a trick that you can do apparently where you if you claim a copyright against your own video, then you would split the revenue with the person.
oh,
If
really?
that makes sense. Like,
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you were like, this is like something, if basically when like, let's say you use two different music videos, right, from two
Hmm.
different music companies, they would both claim your video and they would try to claim the revenue and they would split it. So if you filed the claim on yourself, then you would get half the revenue that's being paid to this like music company.
Well,
Like,
I have not seen ad revenue since the adpocalypse, so I've given up on
right.
that. And not to mention, I got banned from YouTube. It's funny. You're talking about you got to be careful about calling someone a name. Actually, when I first got over to Censored, within the first month or so, Gavin sent me a thing and was like, "What's up with this hook nose comment you put in your title?" And he goes, "Somebody at Censored is a little bit worried that we're using the phrase hook nose to describe someone, and they were wanting to make sure I wasn't talking about Jews, I think." And I
Right.
was like, "No, it's just Anna Kasparian, who's like an Armenian atheist, and she happened to have a hook nose." But people are sensitive. It's like, is that okay? Can I call someone a hook nose?
I mean, how many people do you think that have seen your videos think that Anna Kasparian is Jewish and like you call her hook nose because of that?
I
Like,
I don't know. I mean, Howard Stern has a guy who calls him hook nose all the time. What was his name? He's a guy. He's part of the Whack Pack. He calls in all the time. Um, but no, that's just in good fun. It's like, didn't you talk about the fat brown buffalo? Do you have a clip on that?
oh yeah, I have that. I'm gonna pull that up in a
Okay.
second. But somebody says Jed Lee actually says Censor TV is worth it.
Yeah.
The app is clean and easy. At first, I only watch AIU. Now I watch GOML every day. Is that Gavin show?
Yeah. That's Get Off My Lawn. Yeah.
I'll get off my lawn and would stay subbed even if AIU sadly left.
Yeah. Those dudes are good, man. Gavin and Ryan, they put on a show, man. They go to work. Like those guys are old school. He wears a suit. Like they plan stuff out. It's all like pretty top notch entertainment. So
Yeah, I will say I'm a subscriber via Censored, and I do like the app. I'm like
mhm,
very cautiously scrolling through your Censored, David. I'm not
uh,
David, Devin, just because I'm terrified of
yeah,
you putting something in a
my thumbnails.
thumbnail
No, it's all
that
mild.
get me red flag. But you put the stuff on YouTube as like the preview. But yeah, you've been making videos on there. They've been great.
Thank you.
I've loved the Censored because if you have YouTube, you have to pay for the rights separately to like minimize the video if you want to do that on your phone. And like I enjoy listening and all that, and it just converts much easier. So like
Yeah.
I always found the app works. And I remember you telling me Gavin has some like nerd dude that built the app for him. So
Mhm.
Censored is a great option.
It is cool, and also, like, the freedom there. Like, first of all, Gavin's not gonna stop me from doing anything there, which is awesome, but also just, I'm doing stuff there's no way I could have done on YouTube, and it's not like I'm saying edgy words. I'm talking about, like, I don't know, like, covering a UFC fight. Like, that thing would have been gone instantly, or music, stuff like that. Like, I just have way more freedom to kind of fully express myself, so that's been good. And, for me, Patreon was really the last thing that I was always nervous about. And it was like sitting on an active volcano or something, and you just knew that those idiots would spaz about something. And the fact that it's over Emmett Till of all people, like I did 3 videos on Emmett Till, and the main points that I'm raising in those videos are the following. Number 1, I'm against him being murdered. Like, he should not have been murdered. And I say that multiple times, and there's a video, compilation of clips of me highlighting that point multiple times.
Right.
Part 2, I think I'm against sexual assault, as are you, right? I mean, this is like
Yeah.
basic shit. It's embarrassing to say this. I think he sexually assaulted a woman in a store in 1955. I mean, we have one account of it, and that's what she said. So why would I believe anything else? I mean, there's no evidence to suggest he didn't do that. Um, and it's like, so what? Let's say you disagreed with me about that, and you're like, actually, I don't think I think he's totally innocent. All he did was whistle.
Yeah, well, that's how the story like typically goes, where they'll say, "Oh, he was just like walking by and he whistled at this
Right.
woman and all that." But it was never really even in dispute, like for the longest time that did happen.
Oh yeah, he
The
did
whole
whistle.
point was this wasn't justified.
Well, the murder wasn't justified, but what happened in the store gets overlooked. And if you watch the scene, and I did a video on this, the scene in the recent Emmett Till movie, in all the Emmett Till movies, there's like 4 others that came before this. They all lie about what happened in the store to a ridiculous degree. So for fun, go read her account, Carolyn Bryant's account of what happened. She testified in 1955. She wrote a book about it recently that has been leaked. It's the same account. And it's nothing like what is portrayed in those movies. And that to me is, you know, disgraceful and astonishing. One thing that's interesting, this whole thing happened at night. So the sun was down. And this she mentions this in the court case in 55. And in every movie, every single movie, they make it broad daylight, like
Right.
midday. And that's such a weird lie to do. It's such an easy thing to not get wrong, but they do get it wrong because, oh, in broad daylight, you're just going to pull a gun on some guy because he whistled at you. It's like, that's not what happened. But
Well,
the point,
that will get Anna to say in broad daylight over and over again.
Emmett Till crossed state lines to get from Chicago to where did he go? Mississippi.
Yeah.
Several state lines.
You know, so somebody was saying that you should come back to YouTube a little bit. Like now you are not back on YouTube, but there is
No.
this channel that's very interesting that I put up on screen, and it's also linked in the description, called The Pouch.
Oh, yeah, some guy
And
runs that. I don't know.
yeah, I would recommend that channel. You know, just saying.
Yeah, all my teasers go there, and oh god, I mean that channel has 2 strikes. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I can't win, dude. I can't win. So, but back to my point about Emmett Till, like if you think that he's innocent of the sexual assault, and I don't, is that hate speech? Hey, we have a disagreement about what happened in a store in 1955. Like, what are we talking about here? So, I don't even know who I'm supposed to hate in an Emmett Till video. And
Right.
so that's
It's
why I have a morbid curiosity as to what they think is hate speech out of everything I've said over 10 years.
yeah, it's just whatever they're in the mood for. Or you know, you posted a video, somebody reported it, they said something about how this
Mhm.
was unfair to Emmett Till. Like there might be somebody who's even paying to follow you on all these things.
Yep.
So you know, like that happens. Like, you know, I have accounts that will follow me, and I'll notice them on anytime I have a new paid subscription service. Like I'll notice their accounts and all that. It's like, you know, those people are obsessive and they report, and like that's what they like to do.
But Sean, isn't it crazy? Like, even the phrase hate speech, doesn't that give you the heebie jeebies? Like, it's so cliche at this point that, like, how are we even doing this unironically? Like, we're still talking about the freaking concept of hate speech. And if you read what they describe it as, their definition, it's like all of it sails over my head in terms of I don't do any of that. But it doesn't matter. What does it matter? They have the power and they don't have to explain themselves. And I have no recourse and I have no appeal. And they're just like, screw you. We're a private company. And by the way, thanks for your 10 years of service, creating thousands of videos that you
Yeah.
posted for us and all the money you made for us. Goodbye.
It's just, again, it's rough because you end up having like built up on, because you know Patreon's the original one. People don't know this, but you actually get the better rate, like the founders rate, if you came
Yeah.
in early, like you and I both did. And you know,
Hmm.
you want people to move over to Subscribestar. Like I love the fact that Subscribestar doesn't censor or anything like that. But on the back end, Subscribestar is not as good. It's not as like useful. Like that's one of the reasons why I did the
It's,
website, so I could have something that's more, you know,
well,
interactive with people.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
not as popular either. It doesn't have the brand recognition, which is the trust that Patreon has. And so that's why it's a shame. And look, I have their emails, that's true. And I sent out a mass email to all my patrons. And out of the 1,000, 50 came to Subscribestar. So just so you guys know, like, why this is like not some easily fixable situation, you have to sell 1,000 people again, which
right.
is not easy to do.
Which is one of the reasons why I'm telling people, go to the link in the
Sell
description.
it, Sean, sell it.
Yeah, subscribestar.com/atheism.
Thank you.
You can find his content there. You can also go to censored.tv, use promo code AIU, and you can go there. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like that's where you would go to see his content. Now,
Oh,
I do want to
seriously.
play this
Okay,
video though.
please.
This this TYT video. Now, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I want to give you the setup for it because I actually
Okay,
think the story is hilarious.
I love
So
it.
there's an art exhibit at a university, and it depicts like it's anti-Iranian abuse against women, and like specifically what people want to go after them for is the fact that they're like disparaging the Iranian culture. But the exhibit is about like how they force women to wear like the hijab, or
Mhm.
like I believe it's the hijab in Iran. So these college kids protest the exhibits because they're like, oh well, because the windows are glass, it's non-consensual viewing of this art. So the solution that the university came up with was that they put up curtains to cover up this exhibit, aka a
Oh,
hijab.
oh, nice. A burqa for the art exhibit.
Yeah, a burqa for the anti-forced burqa art exhibit. So,
Oh
like,
my God.
I thought that was hilarious on its own. But then somebody on Twitter mentioned, and this is how I discovered it, that you get a little mention in here
Oh, really?
from Jank, not by name, of course, but I just thought it would be funny.
He's going to reset the same thing he gets wrong every
Okay.
time.
Yes. Can you hear it? Can you
So
hear
guys, look, I'm on the left and I'm from a Muslim background, and it have I experienced discrimination because of that? You have no idea. The art exhibit would be, I mean, wouldn't register, first of all. So one of my nicknames online is Fat Brown Buffalo, okay? Given to me by the right wing.
Wait a minute. Okay, so first of all, what kind of discrimination did he face? He's had a charmed existence. He's a multimillionaire, and he has the longest running show that has never gotten a strike on YouTube, even though he's inspired a fan of his to kill 4 cops. I mean, where's the discrimination against this guy? People can't pronounce his name?
Oh, okay, Devin. What you don't get
Yeah.
is that
What is
after he was a multi-millionaire, million subscribers on YouTube, there was a guy with a kangaroo avatar who came up with this nickname, Fat Brown Buffalo. And that's discrimination.
What's crazy is, like, it's not even a mystery. Like, this is how bad at journalisming these people are. It's very obvious that I came up with Fat Brown Buffalo, which is not like some great thing, but it's weirdly it stuck. And it's like, I'm not on the right wing. So, like, maybe you could make the case compared to them. Oh, I'm very far right compared to them, but everyone is far right compared to them. That's the whole point. But it's like, he goes, one of my nicknames online is Fat Brown Buffalo. No, that's the nickname. What other nicknames do you have? That's the first thing that comes to his mind. And I love how he's going to gloss over the fat part. He will say, look, fat. Okay, I get that. But the brown.
Oh yeah, he's going to explain it. I got to play Jank.
Please.
Here's the reset.
Okay.
Because I'm brown, and that's by definition bad, right? They hate that I was Muslim. I'm now an atheist. Other people hate that, right? And the right wing hates me for being Muslim, and whether I'm atheist or not, it doesn't matter. And by the way, the New York Times and other mainstream media, then when I talk about how, well, okay, but I grew up, I respect Islam, my whole family's Muslim, I protect Muslim American citizens on political issues nonstop, but I don't believe in Islam. The New York Times, he's offending Muslims.
Okay, wait a minute. That was really weird how he only talked about the brown and not the fat and the buffalo. Like, those things are the insulting parts. The brown he took to mean bad, when really it's just descriptive. And all it was playing by his rules, where he calls everyone white. White cop does this, white mass shooter does that. So we're just calling you brown. So we're calling you by a color the way you call white people by a color. And he's taking all that other context or subtext, that's him putting that in there. And then him saying, oh, but it's because I'm Muslim. I'm not calling him fat, brown, Muslim buffalo. There's nothing religious about that.
The idea that you care that he used to be Muslim, because he's not even Muslim.
Yeah. It's like, so he wants the victim points of, I'm a Muslim, culturally I identify, so I'm oppressed, even though I'm an atheist. By the way, he called himself an agnostic for like 30 years, which is like the cringiest thing ever. And it's like, he wants it every way. He wants to, poor Jank, and he got a nickname. My God. It's like innocent and fun. It's like a Disney nickname.
He's upset. So it's that he's Fat Brown Buffalo. Like, that's the nickname that you gave him. I'm not saying that. I would never say anything like that.
No,
I'm very respectful. But so he says that's from the right wing. But even the second half of that statement is just as ridiculous, where he says the New York Times attacks him for saying that his family's Muslim, but he doesn't believe in Islam. When has that ever happened?
No one cares, dude. Literally no one cares about that. But like, why lie that I'm part of the right wing? It's so lazy that he lumps me in with just his enemies. It's like, what if he comes out and goes, actually, it's a left-leaning dude who's like an Obama Democrat calls me a fat brown buffalo? Then people are like, oh, well, then maybe the guy's got a point. Like, he's not demonized because he's a right winger. You know, they just try to discredit their enemies by just labeling them the other. You're the bad guys.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be a right wing Christian nationalist by the end of Jank telling the story.
Oh,
like, you know, that's how he rolls. But no, this is it's wild that he keeps bringing this up. So congratulations that you got this like nickname to penetrate into Jank's brain, because he's done this shtick a bunch of different times, like where he's like, the right wing called me this, and it's because I'm brown,
I know.
and it has nothing to do with the fact that like when a white person does something bad, TYT will go white cop,
Yes, right.
white lady, like whatever. It's like the key thing in that situation. Or even when a black person does something bad and they put in the thumbnail like a white like stock photo with the
Yes.
prison jumpsuit.
Mhm. All the time that happens. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, think about how many times whiteness has been referenced in pop culture or on the news in the past 7 years. Has there ever been a single time it was said in a positive context? Like,
No.
we're talking about like 10 million negative references in a row. And like eventually even the normie white people are catching on to, wait, why are you shitting on me because of my race? Is that not racism? And like they're so entrenched in like, oh, I don't want to talk about race and I'm sort of not about this. But like, yeah, this is getting a little bit ridiculous at this point. So it's just I don't know. Did you see the clip the other day of a couple of thugs who were harassing a guy at a restaurant and he called
Yes.
them a thug? This is
Yeah.
what this is a microcosm of what's happening in our society. They then got in the guy's face and said, I dare you to call me the N-word. Call me the N-word. Watch what happens. We'll knock you out. Now, that's essentially what big tech, people like Patreon, mainstream media, and mainstream culture is doing. They're saying, hey, white people, I dare you to say something positive about being white. I dare you to show pride in who you are and where you're from. Like, I dare you to say something that's off script. Like, tell me that Emmett Till did something wrong. I dare you. Now, you could be someone living your life, you're into whatever you're into, you have a personal life, you have a job, you have a family, but it might strike you as a little bit weirdly power tripping and a little bit terrorizing for people to challenge and threaten you and try to like belittle you and say, we're not going to let you say that word or not a word. In that case, it was that word, but we don't want you to talk about any of these things. Otherwise, we're coming for you. Now, people might step up and that might be fighting words for anyone. They might say, look, I'm not even interested in this topic, but I'm just not liking you trying to rule over me like a mob boss. Like, that's not cool. So, to me, that's like where we're at in society right now.
And they're doing it to generate the video. That's why the camera's directly in front of their face. And there's another guy. So there's this guy, Decoy Voice. He's an Asian dude from LA. He does short videos, somehow succeeds on YouTube with it. Really cool guy. And he was talking about how one of these guys who's like a 6'6" black dude goes up and he starts crap with people in public, films it to put it on his YouTube channel. And this is just like monetized harassment. And people are like, oh, he doesn't do that. That's ridiculous. He's like, no, he's in LA. I'm in LA. I've run into him in real life. So like that's this guy's shtick. And it's just a monetizable like kind of thing. Like you can just do that now because
It works. This is like Darwinism. If it works, it works. And they have no incentive to stop. So
Well, it's
you
like
outrage
if you
people.
get a video of somebody calling you the N-word and you're a black person, you can
Oh,
guarantee money. Like, you and I both talked about that college girl.
yeah,
Obviously shouldn't have been drunk, shouldn't have been throwing punches and all that. But like
right.
the reaction to her saying the N-word to them in the moment was them laughing and being like, yes, we got you. Your life is over. And then all of a sudden, days later, after the video goes viral, the woman could barely speak. She's crying on television. Like, who are we kidding?
Oh, she might kill herself. I mean, this happens all the time. People get shamed and bullied, and it's just like a mob mentality. It's sad, and no one's intervening. That's the thing. So this behavior gets rewarded. But by the way, on the Young Turks, like it's all fun and games. They're idiotic and sort of amateur hour, but like the fourth cop recently died from Gavin Long, their fan, and they got away with that.
Yeah.
They were not held financially responsible. They have never commented on it publicly that their fan they inspire, and they do anti-cop videos all the time. My next video is reacting to an anti-cop video they did, and that sickens me. And so I'm going to be doing more videos about Gavin Long because if I get booted off of every platform, this to me is important. that
Right.
someone avenges those 4 cops who died because of the inanity of Jimmy Dore, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian. Like, that's not a joke. That's not like, oh, fat brown buffalo, isn't it fun? Are these people fat and hook-nosed? They killed people.
Right.
So that, like, just to be serious for 1 second, I'm coming for them for that, and I want the families to sue them for that civilly.
Right. I do remember, and that guy was in like they called it like a living death where he could barely
Oh,
move,
yeah.
and his like young wife had to take care of him
Yep.
like 24/7. Like it was a horrible situation. He was like that for years.
Yeah, he was shot in the
And
brain. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk for
and
3 years.
it was directly it was it, the and Long, for people who are like, oh well, him just being a fan,
Right.
whatever.
He
Like for
liked the
those of you who
page.
don't
Oh.
know, he would do reaction videos to the Young Turks in stories, by the way, where they would make up like non-facts about the cases. So like a woman got slammed by a cop and they're
Mhm.
just like, oh, it was probably a black woman. It wasn't, but
Yeah.
Gavin Long saw it, and when he was asked by Jimmy Dore, like, what is he gonna do? Like, or what would you do? Because this is a question that Jimmy posed. If
Mhm.
you saw somebody beating on a woman, like a black woman, it cuts to Gavin Long and he's like, I'm gonna fight back. And Jimmy's like, I would get a tire iron. So they were like encouraging this, and he went off and did that.
Well, it's even worse than that, Sean. Jimmy Dore set it up. He says, "When do you fight back? When do you push back with
Yeah.
resistance and violence?" And then he says, "I would get a tire iron." And then Gavin Long cuts. I mean, he was a YouTuber, guys. He's
Yeah.
doing reaction videos to the Young Turks anti-cop shit. And he's like, "Oh, good idea, Jimmy. I'll fight back too, and I'll kill 4 of them."
Yeah, he said, I wouldn't like, I'm not going to be the one. He's like, you're not the real ones. I'm the real one. Don't worry about, like, it
Yeah.
was very sketchy. But the fact that he was mirroring videos that were just provably false, that a completely irresponsible speculation on top of everything else was also like, you know,
And
it's just horrible. Now, Red Pill Fight Club says he
Mhm.
streams on Rumble and features both of our content often. Red Pill Fight Club is the name. Red Pill's many with the thorough takes Sean gives and the I can't read,
Nice.
eternally on point snark from Devin.
Mhm.
So that's somebody who's streaming your stuff. So he's more successful on Rumble than both of us.
Well, he will be hearing from my lawyers, and I will be copywriting all of the content he is currently streaming.
Somebody's asking which website is superior, Odyssey or Rumble. So I actually I think Rumble is the one that's going to be more successful because they're starting to pay some people, and like the secret is if you offer money, talent will show up. Like, that's why YouTube beat like Vimeo.
What, you're calling us whores?
It's not even that. It's just like like if you had a choice to work 2 places, one where they pay you nothing and the other
Yeah.
one where they pay you anything, like you're gonna choose the one where they pay you.
Well, look, a lot of these competitor sites have always been rinky dink. It's always like, oh, you should come over here. It's this and that. And it's like, there's always something. There's a bug. The quality's crap. The interface sucks. Something.
See,
But
but the thing is, I like Odyssey. I like everything on Odyssey in terms of quality, interface, and all that. And technically, they paid me more than Rumble. They've paid me at least $1.50 2 months in a row.
cha-ching. Yeah, there was a great site called VidMe, I believe. And they were doing so well that they got way too many views and they couldn't hack the bandwidth. And they're like, we are deleting the website. Like, sorry, guys, we did too well. We can't afford it.
Oh, so Devin, I think this is
Mhm.
a response to you, maybe.
Yeah.
You do realize white women caught in interracial acts often claimed rape and exaggerated what happened past and present. So saying Emmett Till is, the sentence is breaking up,
Mhm.
someone pretty suspect. So basically, Emmett Till doing this, sexually assaulting someone is pretty suspect given the times and the era.
Yeah, this is
Uh,
just retardation. I mean, that's just saying a blanket statement. The South was racist, so anything that happened in the 1950s in the South is got to be the white people's fault because racism. That's
well,
garbage.
it's also like one, she wasn't consenting to being, she wasn't consenting to anything in the middle of the night in a store, like that wasn't happening. Two, Emmett's friends said they dared him to go in and like hit on this woman. So
Yeah.
like he grabbed her and then he said something vulgar to her. Like
Mhm.
this isn't exactly, this
It's
isn't
not
the
a
exact thing that you would consent to.
It's not even a hard stretch to imagine him doing this. This is not like a tall tale. This is like a very easy to believe scenario. The guy's
It's
14.
and it's not like a rape or it's like it's a sexual assault, but it's like a comparatively minor on the scale of
And
like
also the premise of white women lie and exaggerate all the time. What are you talking about? What about all the times they are assaulted and sexually attacked? Are we factoring those in? And then what is her incentive to lie here? So if you say that, if you ask an open-ended question to a person with a brain that wrote that comment, they would say, "Oh, well, it's racism, Devin. She just randomly decided to be racist to this guy." Meanwhile, she runs and operates a store. This is a young mother, 21 years old, has a couple kids, a husband. She runs a convenience store in the deep South, surrounded by a bunch of plantations. It caters to black people. She's surrounded by black people all day, every day. But all of a sudden, she pulled a gun on one of them and has this very detailed story that has been consistent for the past 60 years.
it's
Like,
also that it happened like the witnesses were like Till and like his friends that were outside the store. So like why would she, if she had a consensual interaction with this person, right?
Rodney Reed?
Like tell this story that's not even like an ultra severe version of a this kind of assault. And when there's like no witnesses, it's not like somebody's like, "Oh, I saw you making out with that 15-year-old." Like that's not realistic. Plus, the mother talked about how he's from Chicago, so he didn't know how things work down in the South and all that. Like if you read between the lines of what people who are supporting Till are saying, even they believe he did it.
Yeah. And again, the caveat is like, even though he did do this, he doesn't deserve to die. And no one says he did. And so it's
Devin,
like,
do you remember an old video of yours featuring a crazy African American gentleman walking down train
gotta be more
tracks
specific.
with an
Yes, I do
axe?
know that one. Yes.
And somebody wants you to re-upload it.
Oh my God, it's somewhere up there, man. It's like, I could find it. That dude was insane. That was also a TYT fan. I believe that was Corey Muhammad.
Right.
Yeah, he's a psycho. But so yeah, she gets assaulted, and this woman wanted no part of this. She didn't even tell her husband. Like, she was gonna just bury this. And she finally was like, "Okay, here's what happened in the store." She had no part in what her husband and brother-in-law did. And she's just like, "I don't want any of this shit. Like, I didn't ask to be sexually assaulted." But see, what is infused in that comment is a blanket white guilt statement of, Devin, let's go easy and let's give them the benefit of the doubt because racism. That's
Right.
essentially what they're saying. So like Rodney Reed did the same thing. Remember where they go, Rodney Reed attacked and raped and murdered this woman. Yeah, but look, it was a few years ago, it was a couple decades ago, and there was racism. That was the South too, Sean. There's
Yeah.
racism over there. So I
That
think people were just upset that she was having a secret affair with this dude and like fucking him at 4 a.m.
I would say like the thing is with the Till, like let's say what Emmett Till did was actually 10 times worse than what this woman claimed.
Hmm.
That's still like none of us are making the case that what these adults did to this 15-year-old child is justified in any way. So like people who make the argument that Emmett Till is completely innocent, I think it's a perfect example of unbelievably stupid white guilt
Yeah.
because that's actually not relevant to what happened. Like you don't need them to have target Till for no reason at all. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. It's like, sorry, we have a dog here.
Devin's being attacked by a wild Pitbull. If you've seen those videos, and somebody says, as a regular Joe, Edgewise CL, who can't just send $5 a month to everyone a month. Actually, Devin talks about this, what he's competing with. I support Nerdrotic monthly, but eventually AJW and AIU are next for me. I would say, listen, if my videos right now are available for free, I don't have like a paywalled content because I still have my platform. Like, if you want to see Devin's videos because they are behind the paywall, I would say support him before me. I mean,
Oh
that's
my
kind of
God.
what this whole stream is all about. Subscribestar.com/atheism.
That was selfless. Yeah, if Sean didn't gain 15,000 subs every time I blink, then I would probably be trying to like do a rally for him. And like, I think Sean's going to be all right, guys. Like, but no, yes, obviously, if the situation was reversed and he had been banned and I had a massive YouTube channel, I think Sean and my fans know that I'd be promoting him and shouting him out. But it just so happens that I got screwed. even though he basically says the same thing I do, but he's just a nicer guy, and so no one bans him.
I'm telling you, those nicknames, they may be iconic, but they get you.
Just like Slippery Sean to say that. Jesus.
I can't believe how many people bought Slippery Sean shirts. Like,
Profiting off of the mockery of towards you from others. It's
yeah, it's just it's a terrible nickname too, but I kind of like it. That's how bad it is. Been with you since the days of mostly Atheism postings. I appreciate the new stuff very much. I donate from time to time and hope that helps keep your channel up and running. I'm hoping you're not sending it to PayPal anymore, because Devin also got nuked off of PayPal.
Nuked is a mushroom cloud. I thank you, Mr. Message Writer. My only complaint is that you just sent Sean $20, and that's $20 I will never see.
That is true. I gotta play this this video right quick.
Okay.
Because you mentioned it earlier, and it's only 20 seconds, so like this is just wild. First of all, everything about this woman, I'm not about her.
But wait a minute, can you see the like count on that? That's the craziest like cherry on top of this.
Well, the like count for here, like this Twitter, this is like catch up, so I don't know if they're affirmative or I would assume against.
On TikTok, she's going around thinking she's an influencer now because she has a fan base. Like, this is her catchphrase now. She keeps talking about how terrible the pig people are.
She's 41 years old.
That's ridiculous. Well, didn't you say that that 25-year-old Asian, you couldn't figure out how old he was?
He was 19, not even 20.
But wait a minute, Sean is an expert. He lives in and among Asians, and he can't put an age on them. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's like she's doing all, like, the way she acts is like a child, and the blue hair and all of that, and like she, like, it's not like she's wrinkling, so it's like everything about her screams super young. And then Vince comes in a suit, and like he looks a little older, so I think at least 25. It turns out he's 19, still in college.
Let me ask you a question. By the way, 19 was the same age that William Hung was, where she bangs. But how old are you allowed to be to have purple hair for you to still give it a pass?
So okay. Full disclosure, she didn't have the full purple, but I dated a girl with purple tips, and I think she had them when like just the tips of her hair, like were purple, just the tip.
Yeah.
And she, so I think I stopped hanging out with her when she was, I want to say 21. So the cap is 21.
I could see that. I mean, it's like a sign from nature telling you this is a poisonous mushroom, like beware. But I guess it attracts the kind of guy she wants it to attract. Like, otherwise, why do it?
Well,
maybe she's lesbian.
Well, it's supposed to be like a rebellion. So like the thing is about, like, this is the benefits of living in an Asian neighborhood. So like the classic Asian rebellion is to dye your hair blonde, but this is like I have to make my hair as inhuman and unattractive as possible, so I dye it like a purple or blue or like a non-actual redhead color red. So like,
Sean, this is peacocking. This is what this phenomenon is known as, and it's thirsty. It's desperate for attention. It was funny, that Sam Smith video from before with the pea. Earlier in the video, he comes out and he's literally wearing a peacock. Like, there's a peacock on his back. So he's taken it very literal. But like a lot of what we see online is just young people scrambling for a point and an identity and some attention. So we live in an attention economy. Everyone has an algorithm to maintain your interest. This is just a visible example of that deep urge that is never quenched, like that thirst that they have. So it's cringe to watch.
I gotta play this though. But yeah, it definitely is like all about attention. And I will also point out, there's nothing more American right now than for you to just dye your hair this inhumane color and talk left-wing social justice talking points. So this was like the most anti-assimilation girl. Like, I got news for you. Nobody's doing this in Korea.
When you say doing this, you mean having sex with this?
Well, yeah. Well, that too. But apparently she has 2 kids, so somebody is. but like nobody's doing this in Korea where they're dyeing their hair like this and talking about like saving black people from the history of slavery. But I gotta play this video.
Okay.
And this is what happens when you learn history written by white people who paint themselves as white saviors.
I mean, come on.
I mean, already, but she's trying to say that we didn't help Korea, and she's talking about a unified Korea. Like, what, are you North Korean? Like, the South Koreans are pretty distinctly different. I mean, culturally, definitely, even racially at this point. But like, how are you not going to say that America helped out Korea?
It's indisputable. Like, not only did America like help Korea, but they
We
kind
still
of
do to this
saved
day.
and rebuilt Korea. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they were hit real hard by the Japanese. By the way, I can't remember what country beat the Japanese in World War II.
Okay.
It just eludes me right now. But they were hurt by the Japanese until a random nation ended up defeating the Japanese and dropping 2 atomic bombs and liberating the Koreans. Then we send soldiers to go die in the Korean War, which was very unpopular in this country. We
Mhm.
split the nation, and you look at North and South Korea, it's like, you know, there's no contest.
Yeah, it's weird. And to this day, we have their back. Like, we're their allies. But also, I like the equating of America to just white people. So her hatred towards whites just is now like as if there weren't people of color fighting in Korea too. There were a lot. So I like that one. Strange.
We also fixed Japan. Like, you know, I was gonna do a video on why we failed in Iraq and Afghanistan. And one of the reasons why we failed is because we let them write their own constitution. So like in both their constitutions, they have this provision where Sharia law takes precedent over the constitution. So like they can have a court that will override laws, even if they're in their constitution, if it conflicts with Islamic law. The Japanese had that kind of system with the emperor, who's also a religious figure, and they put forward a draft constitution in World War II, or at the end of World War II, that basically kept everything the same, kept the emperor in place and all that. And Douglas MacArthur, who was the commander of our armed forces in Japan, said no, and he basically rewrote their constitution. Like, it's the
Yeah.
most undemocratic thing possible, but look at Japan right now.
They've done very well, and we took a very particular course post World War II. I think Tom Cruise had something to do with it, Last Samurai, something like that. But yeah, you raise a good point about the Iraq, such as
The maps.
Because white supremacy tells them they're the good guys. Korea's biggest heartbreak is our history of being torn apart into 2 separate countries for white people's fight for world domination.
hold on.
And
How did we tear them apart? Like they had no internal problems? Like, that's like saying we tore Vietnam apart.
It's white people were nearby. I mean, forget what side they were on in the war or anything like that.
Yeah.
White people, as in America, and
Right.
therefore it's their fault. Meanwhile, again, Korea was self-governing for a long period of time until they were taken over by the Japanese. Then some country, I don't know, United States of America maybe, defeated the Japanese. And yeah, there was some destabilization that went on in Korea, and that led to like a communist revolution starting, which of course was backed by the communist Chinese, who of course backed the most like authoritarian regime. And there's a reason why North Korea is significantly worse. Again, the whole peninsula would be North Korea if
Yeah.
not for us. Like, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, and what's great is that we lump them all together as Asians in America, which is, kind of sloppy, lazy, and it overlooks every cultural and distinction that they have. But if you want to see racism, go listen to a Japanese person describe a Korean, or a
Yes.
Chinese person describe a Japanese person. I mean, they're the most racist people ever, and it's like what her problem is her perspective is, as a severe minority in America, she feels otherized, and she doesn't like to be a minority. You'll never hear a minority say that, but it is so fundamentally true. They're just like, look, I don't want to be in a white majority country. That's why I have all this vitriol to white people.
Yeah,
And
and the thing is she was actually born in Korea. Like, this
Mhm.
kind of attitude usually comes from next gen immigrant. She was born in Korea. She probably speaks Korean. Like, feel free to go back to Korea.
that
Like,
should, if
90,
you're
98% like ethnic Koreans in Korea.
yeah, You're telling me she's a mom, she has 2 kids? What's the acronym for mother I would not like to fuck?
Oh.
It's not as catchy, it's not as catchy.
It's just too long. Somebody
Milnif.
saying they're
It's
wearing the Slippery Sean shirt right now. Somebody joined your ball tribe last weekend, so that's
You know
good.
what? I like that. I recommend shaving in the shower. Go with, like, they have good electric, razors. You can do that. It's just kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And, welcome. And also shave downstairs too. Don't stop. Clean it up down there, you know?
Go completely hairless. I would say, do you know the so the Mecca Wing Zero says that this like Pitbull owners are in denial about how dangerous pit bulls are, and it
Mhm.
reminds them of other crime statistics. Do you have any commentary on all these videos of pit bull attacks going around?
I think there is a actual argument to be made, but the pit bull analogy is really interesting in terms of, like, hate speech. So if you're against dog bites or, like, dogs biting kids, you know, tends to come to the forefront because they do severe damage and kill them sometimes. Isn't that a valid thing to be concerned about? So why would people throw up roadblocks and be like, hey, person who's concerned about dogs killing children, what's your bigotry all about, bro? You keep talking about pit bulls. Like, why are you talking about them like that? I'm like, well, they do it disproportionately. So we have to draw attention to them because remember, we care about dogs killing babies. That's a thing. And it's just so weird how we just lose the plot and just veer off course. And it becomes about this person's fake fabricated racism or bigotry towards pit bulls, towards bleeps. It's just like, people, wake the hell up. This is like morality 101. This is not even that complex or interesting.
Well,
Should go without saying.
I get that people are like, oh, you should completely ban the dog breed, right? And a lot of apartments and they already do that. You can't have a pit bull in certain places like
Right.
across the country because they're considered to be very violent dogs. And maybe that's a little bit too far. Maybe they have like a purpose and all that. But like fundamentally, I'm not going to get mad at somebody who sees a bunch of pit bull attacks and are like, hey, like we should stop breeding these dogs, which were bred to be violent because they're violent. And like
Hey,
to me, like I care so much more about children than a dog breed that people think looks nice. Like,
that's true. There was an interesting proposition brought up recently. I was going to do a video about it. I want to get your thoughts on it. Matt Walsh came up with this idea of the death penalty for drug dealers. And it was like this controversial thing. It's kind of like Old Testament vibe to it. Like he's really kind of letting his true nature fly here. But his argument was drug dealers kill people. So why is it so morally normal for us to say, hey, a guy murdered someone. Okay, well, put him to death or send him to jail forever. And why then are we so hesitant if a drug dealer is like, if he's, we're not talking pot, if he's like dishing out, it's an easy case to make that he has killed human lives.
right.
So why would the death penalty for that be such a repulsive idea to most people?
I'm guessing it's like the intent and like the Singaporean model, like which is what he was referencing,
Yeah.
is actually it's broader than people think. Like I remember there was an Australian guy and he did bring a good amount of drugs into Singapore and they sentenced him to death and the Australian government could not save him. So
Hmm.
they executed an Australian national in their country. So it is serious. If somebody asks you to bring something to Singapore, do not do it because you're not being a citizen of there. It's not gonna help you. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's Walsh was using that as an example for like why they don't have like the litter that we have in the United States on the streets, like the homeless people and all that. And I
Mhm.
would say like Singapore has a bunch of other mechanisms that you might want to take or leave before you just like embrace this one thing. So I'm not sure how I feel about the I'm probably going to be like against it in most cases.
Yeah, it's just an interesting concept because at first, when you hear that, you're like, wow, that's a radical, like severe thing. But then if you actually think about it, there's a point. Of course, the death penalty, you can easily argue, is going too easy on people, and life in prison is a far more suitable punishment, although it costs us way more.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting to get into a like a good old fashioned debate about something that is actually morally nuanced like that.
I mean, the Filipino president, I don't know if he's still the president, Duterte, he got elected because he partially said, if you're in the Philippines and you want to kill a drug dealer, then I'm gonna empower you as a citizen to do that. So he was
Amazing.
like, skip the death penalty, like you can just do it.
Hey, did you hear about this mass shooting in Lansing
Is
at
that the one in
college?
Michigan?
Yeah, Michigan. So this guy, apparently he had been caught with an illegal gun in 2019. He was supposed to
Yes.
do 5 years. He got a year probation.
And
And
they let him plead to a misdemeanor, which is even
right,
more crucial, because if they would have got him to plead to a felony, then felon prohibited possessor. But it was an illegal concealed carry what he got pulled
yeah,
over for.
it's a severe thing. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. To help the gun problem in America is we have to double whatever the punishment is for an illegal gun. So instead of 5 years, he should have done 10. He turned out doing 0 because there's a Democratic DA over there,
Yeah,
right?
it was a progressive DA at the time who
Exactly.
downgraded the charges.
And she's all about that. And I've been watching interviews of her, and she runs on this. She's proud of this. Like, her goal is to depopulate the prisons. And it's like, well, when you do that, you put the criminals in society, and she's not going to go to the victims of the people that guy went out and killed. She's not going to talk to them. She's never going to be like, my policy got that guy out of prison. He killed your family member. Sorry. Like, she doesn't even feel the need to do that.
No.
It's kind of scandalous.
Somebody super chatted Nicholas Turcoti, and he said TYT told him that you were paid by the Russians. Is that true?
I wish, dude. I'm getting paid by nobody. I just got banned from Patreon.
Yeah,
Sean's going to retire with all these super chats at the end of this.
but the point of the video is, or the stream in part, is that you go to the link in the description, subscribestar.com/atheism,
Bingo.
and you sign up on Patreon. I'm sorry, Subscribestar, because Patreon banned Devin. And
Dramatic.
somebody said that's his kind of poison mushroom. I'm assuming that's referring to the Korean lady. So maybe he's into her. Somebody will do it.
Yeah. Oh, dude. We know.
But I will say the fact that the guy could have easily been in jail at the time of this crime it's just absurd. But like, how many times are we going to see that before people realize that letting all the criminals out brings all the criminals, like keeps all the criminals out in the street to reoffend?
So Sean, what is it? Because like those voting districts that put those kind of people in, those progressive politicians in, they're so democratic that they think they're doing the right thing. They don't realize that the people that they're putting in have terrible policies, and it's going to haunt them. It's going to come back to like revisit them. So what is the challenge? You got to turn Democrats into like not being Democrats, because they're voting on racial lines half the time, and it's just like the cycle continues and nothing changes.
Well, we have to stigmatize like criminals. Like, it's very important that we have like high social costs for criminals, because like the criminal justice system, like the deterrence of punishment is like the lowest form of deterrence, because when most people commit crimes, they don't think they're going to get caught. So
Yeah,
like,
they're
if they don't
autistic.
feel like they're going to get caught, then like the fear of consequences in that way doesn't work. But if you make it so like criminals are reviled instead of revered, then that has social consequences.
You know what's crazy?
And
The way to build a bridge here, it might come through people like Anna Kasparian, who's like, look, crime, homelessness, I don't care about left-right sportsmanship anymore. Like all that culture war nonsense. Like, crime is crime, people. We have to deal with this, and like, let's not turn this into a political talking point issue. Like, it's crazy at this point.
all it took for her was to be assaulted by a homeless person.
Yeah, he like what? Grinded up on her butt.
If you watch the Ben Shapiro thing, she actually explains it in a little more detail. She's walking her dog in her neighborhood, which is a nice neighborhood, and she goes and bends over to pick up poop, and a homeless guy comes up from behind her, and apparently he was with another homeless guy, and he's fully saluting, if you catch my drift, and he just starts humping her. He grabs her by the waist and starts humping her as she's bent over. So
wow.
And it was actually like really emotional, and like Anna's Ben Shapiro interview is ridiculous in a lot of ways, where she's like, I'm not trying to demonize, I'm trying to communicate. But like that moment where she's explaining this and she's like, yeah, I'm terrified twice a day when I have to walk my dog. Like, and that's her flip, by the way. That's her, like, something happened to her, and then she realized, oh wait, maybe all these policies are kind of stupid.
Yeah, I guess it does kind of take that as like a wake-up call, where people just stop giving a shit and they're like, look, we are a one issue voter. Get the goddamn homeless up out of this area.
Yeah.
or like the crime reaches a critical mass where it's like, whoever's going to deal with this, we're voting for you. Like, I think that's a better way to approach it, though, like problem-based, solution-based.
At least on the local level, like a lot of
Mhm.
there's like a lot of New York has always been a super democratic place, New York City specifically, but they elected Republican mayors 5 times in a row in New York
Mhm.
City because they wanted the crime to be done with, and they weren't gonna basically go on the suicide pact that Philadelphia, Baltimore, New Orleans are on, where they just keep electing the same party over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Like, by the way,
Yeah, they're
somebody says, "Hey,
mhm.
Devin, I appreciate everything you do. Recently, my cousin married a Boer dude from rural South Africa. His stories from home reminded me about your takes on the South African farm murders. Any more videos on the subject?"
Yeah, I'd like to revisit South Africa. I'm actually working on a series about a neighboring country to South Africa, which is Namibia, and it's about the Germans 100 years ago. They went down there, and it was the first genocide of the 20th century. And it was interesting how it all went down and who's to blame and what happened. Of course, it's very easy and tempting to say, F the Germans, it's the Germans' fault, and they're not without guilt, of course, but they didn't do it for no reason. And I go into it, and it's an interesting story. And I'm tapping back into my historian self. History's kind of cool sometimes.
We're gonna go over that South Africa video from Pazovic, so you can
Okay.
hear about the his take on what's going on with their like infrastructure collapse. Uh,
Well, if you want to
Carolyn
see something
Bryant
crazy, okay, go ahead. Carolyn Bryant.
Carolyn
Oh,
Bryant recently came out and said she lied about the original story.
oh God.
What do you think about that, Devin?
Oh my
I don't
God.
know
See,
her name.
see, it's comments like that like now I'm gonna have to do a video on that. So the short version of that is no, she didn't. She didn't
Oh,
lie.
Carolyn Bryant from Emmett Till.
Yes, that is completely made up. And the guy who propagated that lie that she recanted, he is a best-selling author and has a ton of money because he spread that lie. Carolyn Bryant says she didn't recant. Carolyn Bryant's daughter, who was there at that meeting, says she didn't recant, and she put out a statement in her book or biography that exactly matches up to her testimony from 55. So all of the key components are there, and the fat little monster that is spreading that lie did it for self-interest.
Yeah. And it's and that's the thing that's led to people demanding prosecution. But I actually mentioned this in a video where it's like, look, this isn't like, again, nobody's saying it's justified, anything like that. Like I hate that you have to give that caveat. But apparently Devin got banned off of Patreon because he didn't caveat that 800 times. He only did it
I did that.
799. But even if you read the quote, like what he's actually saying she recanted
Hey,
was like
in part.
testimony that helped her husband get out. So like maybe she lied about his whereabouts or something at trial. So even that, like his initial statement got twisted and escalated. She's
Mhm.
never changed her story about what Emmett Till did to her. Like
Exactly. And just think of this. Think of the pressure, like the amount of energy in the air of people wanting her to be a liar. Ooh, wouldn't it be great if she's just this evil racist who on her deathbed is like, you know what, I made the whole thing up. Like we're just totally racist. I mean, the need for that, the want for that is why that story got traction. And why, if you personally right now were to research that, it would take you an hour to get to the truth about it because it would be so many lies about her. Oh, she recanted and all that. You'd have to sift through that and realize who's publishing those lies and what they're benefiting, like what's their point, their agenda, and all that.
and they raise money off of it. They'll say, "Give us
Mhm.
money, and we'll lobby the government to charge her with murder,"
Oh,
because
there,
like the other guys got double jeopardy, but she was never charged. No
yeah.
statute of limitations on murder.
Whoopi Goldberg wants to put her on trial.
Yeah.
She's sitting there doing interviews talking about they're doxing her. She's living at a senior center. She's like 125 years old. She has like blood cancer. She's dying. And they still want to like punish this woman. This is the bloodlust. And this is all symbolic, but that's a real woman. And think of that. She's the victim of a sexual assault from like, half a century ago. And she's taking shit as she's dying
Yeah.
for no reason.
She told her husband what happened to her, and then her husband and a bunch of other people,
Be-
by the way, who weren't all white,
But Sean,
killed this
begrudgingly,
kid.
she didn't want to tell her husband because she was worried about what he would do.
Yeah. But they killed this kid, and then it becomes the most famous instance of this kind of situation. and like her whole life is about this, and now they're trying to like frame her as somebody who lied about Emmett Till, when again, this was not like, this is like a modern invention that Emmett Till didn't do anything. Like this is not a thing that was alleged at the time, because like I guess weirdly people had better morals back then, because at the time people were like, oh, this is horrible what they did to this kid. I don't care what he did. But for some reason, people need him to be like innocent. You need to clear Emmett Till's name for some reason.
Sean, it gets way worse than that. So first of all, when I say she begrudgingly told her husband found out from other people what had happened there, and then confronted his wife and said, tell me what happened there. And, you know, this is like 1950s. This is like, you tell your husband. So she was forced to then give the details. And then she has been taking shit ever since. But the need to make Emmett Till innocent has spread to his father. His father, who 10 years prior raped and killed 3 white women. He raped 2 of them, killed a 3rd. So, and he was executed by the U.S. military in 1944. And so, like, but they come out and say he's innocent.
He was essentially forced into the military because he got arrested for another crime. I forget what it was.
It was domestic violence against the mom. And they said, we're either going to throw you in jail or come out and fight for us. It was out in Italy. And they're coming out saying Emmett Till's father is innocent of those multiple rapes and murder out in Italy for no reason other than he has to be innocent because Emmett Till has to be innocent. It's like the father and the son. It's religion.
You know what's funny about this? It's like you know, like none of us have ever seen a unicorn because they likely don't exist. But like, imagine if I found a unicorn and I showed it to you, Devin, like, you know, you're visiting New York at some point in time. And I'm like, look, here's a unicorn. And you're like, you know what? I'm not impressed by that. Like, I would be more impressed if there were 2 unicorns here. But like, one is just totally irrelevant. So like the Emmett Till case is already this like fantabulous, violent case where like a child was killed and like these guys got off, and the kid was visiting from Chicago and his mother did the thing with the funeral, and all of these things that made this case like so like, you know, far beyond like the individual murder that took place. But people are like, no, but I also want Emmett Till to be innocent from that. Like they want that extra, they already got a unicorn case, they want a double unicorn.
But the thing is, once it's been established that you can lie and you're fine lying, then go wild. You might as well lie. Like nothing can stop you. And by the way, if unicorns did exist, Vosh would probably want to suck their horns.
True. By the way, we got the super chat from Dan Campbell. It says, watching Devin's Patreon has banned video now. How frustrating is it not knowing specifically what you're fighting for, or like what you're fighting? I mean, obviously, you know what's really going on. Patreon thinks they have plausible deniability. So it's basically like how frustrating is it to be banned and be told to appeal, but then, you know.
Well, Sean, it's like you've been in courtrooms. Imagine walking into a courtroom and they go, we are the prosecution and we are also the judge and we find you guilty. And I say, of what? They go, assault, aggravated assault. And they go, okay, we rest our case. The prosecution rests, you're guilty. Do you want to offer a defense? And I go, I didn't assault anyone. What is your proof? What is your evidence I did? They go, don't worry about it. We know you did. Your defense is over. We find you guilty. That's exactly what has happened. And these people have the nerve to talk about an appeal. An appeal to what? They don't have the balls to tell me what I said because they know it's going to be ridiculous. It's not going to survive the light of day or any scrutiny. It's with their own policy.
We were talking about this earlier. It's basically locked up abroad, where what you call it, there's like a case, I think it was like in the Middle East somewhere, or maybe it was in India, where this guy's telling his story and he's like, oh, my lawyer showed up when I was in jail. And I was like, cool, what's going to be our defense? And he was like, you got 10 years. And the guy's like, what do you mean you got 10 years? He's like, oh, I'm your lawyer, but in this country, we come over and we tell you you're guilty. Somebody says they subscribe for $20 to your subscribe star. That's great.
Thank you.
And Dylan is saying that Carolyn Bryant rescinded her original story about Emmett Till incident. It was in all mainstream media publications. What do you think about this now that the mainstream media is running with it on Black victimhood? I mean, we did talk about this. It's not
real. I mean, this is a reset, right? So, but it's interesting that it's that powerful. So like, these are smart people. These are people in Sean's audience who completely bought into the fact that she recanted that story. And think about that. That's power. Now, it's you have a machine of people. Just think objectively, how many people have a vested interest in Carolyn Bryant rescinding that story? Millions. How many people are fighting for the truth of the matter that she didn't recant? Carolyn Bryant, she's 145 years old. Okay, it's like the red woman. Remember the red woman from Game of Thrones when she takes off the necklace? That's her. That's Carolyn Bryant. She has her daughter who's like a private mother who's like, whatever, a MILF, who cares? Those people are not, they don't have money behind them. They don't have a platform. They're not going to fight this. It's the same thing with Adnan Syed and the Serial podcast versus Hay Midley's brother, like, or Paul Howell and his family versus Justice for Julius and Kim Kardashian. This is David and Goliath nonsense. And it even seeps into the brains of smart people in Sean's audience. They actually believe this.
Well, it was widely repeated, but you also have to think about it like this, like for years and years, she's maintained her story. Then this obviously financially motivated, like huge, I'm a civil rights guy, talks to her, and 3 people were in on the conversation, and he's the only one who got the takeaway. Supposedly, if we even believe that he genuinely believes this, that she rescinded her thing, even though like his quote is super weak on its own. Like if you go find it, it's like it's like again, it's like she testified at the trial, which was the trial of her husband, not the trial of Emmett Till. So it's like maybe she was lying about something in the trial, like again, where her husband was or whatever.
Sean, he recorded the conversation, but he didn't turn the recorder on for this part, for this juicy part. And in his notes, he wrote down that part wasn't true. Without any context, just that part wasn't true. And then that became the whole thing wasn't true. And meanwhile, Carolyn Bryant and her daughter are like, what are you talking about? This did not happen. And by the way, that conversation, he waited 9 years before publishing the book and telling people that she had recanted. 9 years.
He was waiting for her to die, but then this woman like lives forever, apparently.
Right. Because now she didn't die and she releases her version of things, which completely spits in the face of this recantation. Is that a word?
Yeah. Somebody said, when am I going to talk about the Matrix trying to destroy Andrew Tate? Look, I don't know a lot about the Andrew Tate stuff. I'll wait for like some evidence to be presented. Like he's being held in Romania. I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate. I don't like these like pickup artist types, like in general. So like, but I wouldn't let that like bias me if like I could actually see the case. The problem is Romanian courts. Like, you got to take Devin. You want to step
Andrew
in
Tate,
with the Tate boys.
Look, I feel like he's just another byproduct of the louder and more extreme you are, the more entertaining you are. And it's like, he's a caricature and he's done well for himself. I guess he has somewhere in there a message of positivity, strength, and sort of vitality, like hey man, go out and earn and be strong. So there's something good, but if you leave out all the cringe and all the misogyny, I guess not a fan.
I would say the most interesting thing about Andrew Tate and his brother being arrested, and we got to play the South Africa video, but I have to pull up this image because I find it's so amazing.
Okay.
How do let me see if I can open no, I don't want to search the image. Damn.
Look at this.
I gotta figure out how to just open the image.
I'll hum the Jeopardy theme song as you boomer it up.
Okay. I gotta pull up this image because, like, look, I'm not saying like that Andrew Tate guilty based on this, but I am gonna say that it doesn't look good, based on this overwhelming evidence that I'm about to present to you guys.
But didn't he have some like webcam business, and they're trying to call that sex trafficking? It all sounds a little bit flimsy.
Okay. So here's the thing: is like I'm not saying Andrew Tate is guilty, but like this is Andrew Tate and his brother. They're the 2 people that were arrested. Does his brother not look like the guy that Tom Cruise fights before he fights the villain?
These guys are the first round of security when Liam Neeson shows up in an Albanian suburb in France. Like they're getting killed.
That's the biggest problem though. Like they this evidence is kind of like irrefutable.
And the whole leather jacket vibe, I don't know. I know you have a leather jacket, so I don't want to front on that. But I mean, it reminds me of like a 45-year-old woman going out to a club and wearing the tight leather pants. Like, I'm sexy, aren't I? It's like, not really.
No. All right, let me get this South Africa thing up, and then I'll
Okay.
scan for people sending in questions and whatnot. But remember,
Oh,
the
God.
goal of today is for you to go to subscribestar.com/atheism and subscribe to Mr. Devin
Well,
Tracy's
yeah.
subscribe star if you're a former patron, and for him to get his message out. And also, we have censored.tv promo code AIU.
Right. I mean, assuming there's any money left in the universe, since it's all gone to Sean with his grifting ways and these super chats.
All right, so I have this thing. It's a segment from Jack Pozobic.
Pazobic. Nice.
He's aware of your content. He's a good guy.
I heard you guys talking about me once. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, he's gotten onto the innocence fraud stuff as well.
Beautiful.
Like, I'll give him credit. He actually found, I knew he would be good to like talk to him about Julius Jones, because he was like independently going after the Rodney Reed story, which is interesting because before we started talking, we were both independently doing Rodney Reed stuff.
I know. And then conservatives were siding with Rodney Reed for a weird reason. I have no idea why.
Yeah, Ted Cruz, a bunch of them. Not great.
Yeah.
Festive season have been sending out images that attest to what experts have been saying, that South Africa's infrastructure is crumbling. So you've got an example behind me. Let's look at the state of infrastructure tonight then. A report from the South African Institution of Civil Engineering published late last year suggests that the entire public infrastructural system in South Africa has collapsed or is in danger of collapsing. In its report card, it gave infrastructure a D, which is the lowest rating since the report was first published in 2006. An investigation by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure also suggests that the country's road networks are in a mess.
South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pause. The whole time I was looking for the spaceship in the background from District 9, which, I mean, her attire was so conservative by American standards and definitely by Latin American standards. I mean, she looked like the most conservatively dressed woman in the history of time with that green top. It's like very asexual. But that was my lizard brain thinking about that. But what was she talking about? Oh, yeah, South Africa. Yeah, it's a disaster, but guess who's going to get blamed for it? Apartheid. Watch.
Yeah, I mean, Jack's not going to blame them, but yeah, it is crazy because South Africa, you know, not making any commentary about their society, but was clearly among the most advanced and beautiful places in Africa, and it's completely falling apart. And I have the president of South Africa in my thumbnail because he's like totally bungled this, and Jack has his own reason why, and I think it's important that people know about this because unfortunately we're taking up the South Africa path.
That the country's road networks are in a mess.
South Africa. Country is in a complete state of collapse. Interestingly enough, our country is also beginning to see the collapse of complex systems. How could this be? Why could this be? Well, let's go back and find out what happened with South Africa. South Africa used to have what was referred to as an apartheid government. That government came apart. The African National Congress took power. They did away with so-called apartheid, and Nelson Mandela took power. What did Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress, his party, decide to do?
Is it weird that I could totally see why they picked Morgan Freeman to play Nelson Mandela? Like from
well, he's good at a lot of stuff, but yeah. Did he do well in that? What was that? The Matt Damon movie?
I forgot what it was. I forgot what it's called. I don't even know if I saw it, but like, you know, look, they were gonna make Morgan Freeman play this guy no matter what. Like, even if he looked like Sam Jackson's cousin, like they were gonna get Morgan Freeman because it's Morgan Freeman. But like, totally believable right here. Am I right?
Agreed. 100%.
Decide to do. Well, I found a CNN article, and I got to say, I pushed our staff today really hard. I held them over. I said, we need to find the article. We found.
Doesn't Jack come across as, he looks like a high school bully. He looks like he has like a Biff vibe from Back to the Future. Like, could you see this guy grabbing you and like pushing you into the locker?
I could see it. Jack's a pretty tall guy too.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, military guy. Yeah, I could see it. He's a nice guy, but he probably was a bully back in the day.
And the haircut, yeah, he's got that vibe.
Found it. CNN 1998. South Africa tries affirmative action, racial quota plan to become law.
Yeah.
South Africa's version of affirmative action, a plan as controversial here as it is in the United States, could soon become law in the Black majority country. The employment equity measure, boy, that phraseology sounds familiar, doesn't? Employment equity. Well, it turns out that here in the United States, this phrase that we hear over and over and over, equity, 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 is not domestic at all. It's not indigenous to the shores of North America. It actually comes to us by way of South Africa. And here's, of course, CNN's reporting in 1998. South Africa's economy is still carved up between a few giant conglomerates, mainly controlled by whites. But 4 years after historic all-race elections, Black-owned firms are making gains. Here we go. To push that transition into the white-owned ranks and make up for the wrongs of the apartheid era, President Nelson Mandela's government backs a plan in which Black South Africans, quote, would need to constitute 69% of the workforce at all levels from the top down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a disaster, and we're talking about like everything. So like civil engineering to farming, they needed the percentage in those fields to match the demographics of the country, and the results were a disaster. But no one's going to call it out. Although you could look to Zimbabwe, right next door, and the exact same thing happened there, and they're even worse off.
Isn't it crazy that so Zimbabwe totally fell apart once they started seizing farms without compensation, because when the government starts taking people's property without even paying for it, then nobody invests in that country because their property could easily be taken next. And the fastest growing party in South Africa is the party running on that policy that failed in Zimbabwe. It's so wild.
Yeah, give us the land, and they get their rah-rah moment. They seize all this land, and then they can't farm it, and then they're just way more ineffective at it, and it's a disaster. I mean, to the point where the Zulu, the king of the Zulus, came out and was like, "Please don't take the white farmers. Don't do that, because we want to eat," is basically what they said. And so it's not as black-white an issue, but definitely the party you're talking about, those dudes are thirsty for blood, and they want that land. They don't care about the outcome.
Yeah, but it's just wild. Like, you need like it, and they want it in every industry. We don't see that anywhere in the world where you have this percentage of the population representing identically this percentage of any industry ever. It does not happen naturally. You would have to force it. It wasn't even like we should have a policy where we improve the station of Black South Africans. It's like, no, we need everything to be 69% hilarious number and 31% white. Like, crazy.
Well, his aversion to the word equity is justified. Equity is like a really scandalous idea, and it's indefensible. Recently, Joy Reid talked about it. I did a video about it where she looked at the Grammys and was like, I thought the Grammys were great because it really showed diversity, inclusion, and equity. And then she went on to describe how much fun she had watching it and all the different acts she saw and how great it was. She listed off 93% Black artists. And at the end of that, she's like, yeah, that's the equity. Wait, you're 12% of the country. You just said the Grammys, you're hyped about 93% of the people that you mentioned are all Black. This is not diversity or inclusion.
That's the game that they play. So if Blacks are quote unquote underrepresented, then you have to raise the number of Black people to minimum be their percentage of the population. But if Blacks are overrepresented in anything, well, you have to take that into account with the historical context of them being underrepresented. There's like never it's just always on the one side. Like, it's always on the anti-white side.
Yeah, or if they are overrepresented, that's just merit. That's just a meritocracy. You know, what are we going to do? Like Denzel, Will Smith, Morgan Freeman, they all had good roles that year, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And so somebody says the big lie is that the American government is the good guys. In the past, the American government could have been the good guys, but they chose not to be. I mean, I don't know if that's from back when we were talking about the Korean War. I don't know how you look at Korea and how amazing South Korea is and not think that that's one of the good things America did.
Look, mistakes were made. If you want to sit there and criticize America over the past 100 years, I mean, yeah, there's some stuff to talk about, but like it's a little bit easier said than done to be a world superpower. So yeah, there's no real winning in a lot of these situations.
It's also we don't have a peek into the view of the alternative. So like,
Well, we do. The Watchmen, the movie The Watchmen gives us that peak.
let me see if there's anything else in this segment before.
Okay.
Forced race quotas onto South Africa, force them onto a country. This is what Nelson Mandela did. And this is what his successors have done.
Hold on. Is that a crab on
Now
his
let's
back?
go to reporting from CNN.
Go back. It looks like a killer. It looks like one of the prawns.
Oh, it's like
Doesn't it look like it's a chair, but it looks like something is eating Mandela's brain.
it looks like a weird throne, like from a fantasy book.
It looks, now that I look at it, it looks like a dick and balls, like a sculpture of a dick and balls.
Yeah. Again, Morgan Freeman, I could totally see it.
Yeah. And it's like, what's crazy is you could walk up to a far leftist and be like, hey, South Africa is racist. And they'd be like, yeah, I totally agree. And you're like, no, I don't think you do agree. It's racist and not in the way you're thinking. It's the other way.
It's a scary thing. So they already have a culture of like blaming the white minority for everything.
Of
So
course.
they had this water crisis that they were warned about in Johannesburg, I believe, and they had like 10 years of warning that like, hey, you're gonna run out of water in 10 years. Like you should do something to like change up usage, think about water recycling and all that. Did nothing. And then then all of a sudden they have like this polluted water and like diminishing supply and all that. Like that's going to be blamed on the white minority. And when a majority country that's in control of the government starts scapegoating a minority population, like that typically leads to disastrous scenarios. So like I would be moving out of Africa if I were a white African.
Yeah. I mean, it was the predecessor when it comes to an insight into the power of racial guilt and just race itself. South Africa was always a warning sign, but people were happy, more than happy, to condemn whatever it was. Like it's a distant place. Let's just say that's evil and bad. And there are parts of it that definitely deserve criticism. But I mean, Africans get a pass in a way that is eerie to me. Like I'm going to do a story on open defecation. Go type in open defecation Africa and have fun down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I won't be searching that on the stream, but yeah,
Okay.
I've seen that. I've seen it in India. I've seen it in India, and then they get the water from like this big tube, and the tube like rolls around on the floor as it's being passed from bucket to bucket, and it's like, and like they have like the British guy, because anybody who makes a documentary, like 85% chance they're British, and he's like, this is contaminating all the water. It's like, well, why did you tell him to stop?
I know, but I mean, we're talking shit. There's probably a lot of open defecation in America now, like Portland, San Francisco. I mean, it's like LA.
Oh, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
that's even worse because you actually have a major metropolitan area and a complicated sewage system, and it's just just letting that happen. By the way, somebody says my grandfather, base druid, my grandfather took out commies in North Korea, and the lack of gratitude is astounding. To be clear, Koreans overall love the United States of America. Do you remember when they gave that Korean director all those Oscars?
Yep.
Do you remember everybody else's speeches at the Oscars except for Joaquin Phoenix, who was like veganism or whatever? Like they were all anti-American and like, oh, America's so horrible and racist. That guy was like, I'm so happy to be here. You get Martin Scorsese is one of my favorite filmmakers. So is Quentin Tarantino. I never thought this moment would be here. It was like seeing somebody grateful at the Oscars was like something I actually did cherish. So even though like people are like, oh, it won because it was a foreign film, it's like, well, he didn't blame America for anything.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Like Parasite and Squid Game too. It's a nice little relationship we have, and even K-pop. K-pop, what do you think that is? The whole thing is a love letter to Western pop. I mean, all those people were raised on American culture.
I'm not reading that other super chat. Somebody asked if Emmett Till got street justice, which, geez, it's a reference to that Ethan Liming video. I think.
Okay, but I mean, I don't even think that is.
No, it's definitely not.
No, but who would consider that a fair thing to do?
I mean, nobody. I mean, the husband at the time, and whoever else was responsible. But
Well, are you talking
Now
about
let's go to
the couple of
reporting from
bleeps that were
CNN
involved?
just for
I want to play this like last little bit because
Okay.
he's playing something, and then we'll
days
wrap
ago.
Africa.
This is a report from last Friday, February 10th. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a national state of disaster in response to the country's drawn-out energy crisis, calling it, quote, an existential threat to Africa's most developed economy. Setting out the government's key objectives for the year in a State of the Nation address on Thursday, he said the crisis is an existential threat and the very social fabric of our country. Our most immediate priority is to restore energy security. They've endured power cuts for years, but in 2022 saw more than twice as many blackouts as any other year as aging coal-fired power plants broke down and the state-owned power utility Eskom struggled to find the money to buy diesel for emergency generators. Blackouts in South Africa, or load shedding, as they're known locally, have been lasting for as long as 12 hours a day. Last month, the South African funeral practitioners...
I'm gonna stop it there, but because he's showing a bunch of corpses. But basically, they say you have to bury your dead in 4 days because they can't guarantee that the morgue will stay cold enough.
Oh my God! Why's it got to be a blackout though?
Yeah, you call it a brownout. It's short.
The thing is, it's like, this is the third world. Like, there are blackouts and power outages in Latin America and places in the second world. I mean, there is a massive difference. So if Jack is sitting there, is that his name, Jack?
Yeah.
If he's trying to compare South Africa to like a first world nation, there's a massive gap, and it's not exactly a flex to be like South Africa's not like Denmark. You have to compare South Africa to South Africa, but even if you're doing that, they're doing bad. Like, it's gone downhill significantly.
It's wild because they're the most advanced economy in Africa, and that's basically the corpse of I mean, let's be real, the white South Africa, like that government is still the most advanced economy in Africa. And again, like, you have coal-fired power plants. Like, people know that these don't last forever. You have to replace them. You have to do maintenance on them, and they're not doing it. The plants are malfunctioning, and they don't have a solution for it. It's just,
Well, what I find interesting is that, like, I have family in South Africa. Obviously, my family comes from there. But most people that talk about South Africa, they don't care about it at all. Like, they might dip their toe in it to make a point, like, screw whites, I'm against racism, I'm against apartheid. And they want nothing to do with it. Like, the facts on the ground, the corrupt politicians that are there now, the murder rate there, which is insane, the baby raping going on. Like, there's a number of things that are atrocious that if you actually did care about human suffering or South Africa and the people there, you would dive into and condemn a bunch of people that you're not willing to condemn because you don't want to get messy with it and you don't care.
Have you ever seen this video of this British documentary filmmaker? His name eludes me, unfortunately, at the moment, where he interviews people. He interviews South Africans, and this guy comes up to him and he asks him about like crime, and the guy's like, "I kill people." He's like, "I cut somebody's throat," and he's like, just looking him dead in the face and saying that. And like, they cut to the British guy narrating later, and he's like, "Oh, this guy was obviously joking," and I'm like, dude, does your threat assessment like system in your brain not work? Because he looks like he's gonna gut you while he's saying this, and you're like, oh, what a joke. There's like no hint of a smile.
I think it might be the same guy that guy interviewed him. He's like, how many women have you raped? And he's like, 100, 200, I've lost count. And he goes, don't you think that's wrong? And he's like, no, I wanted sex, so I took it. And they go, well, what if someone did that to your mother or your sister? And he goes, well, I'd kill them. And it was just like, that's a weird one. That's out there somewhere if you want to search for it.
There's an Italian documentary called like Africa Audio. It's from like the 70s. It actually weirdly gets it's the only place that had footage because they were flying over the part of Africa where this genocide was happening. They have like the only footage of this genocide because they just happen to be flying over this area where I think it was like Arabic people were just killed off en masse. And but it's very interesting from like the 70s how like the Italians were explaining Africa. It's all dubbed in English. Okay. Very, very fascinating. Somebody
they-
says, HP Lovecraft says, by the way, the
Mhm.
CEO of Patreon is the speeding image of a soy pod. Sometimes you have to look at somebody and you could judge the caliber of their character.
True.
Sure. Guilt on face alone is what I call it.
Well, I mean, don't judge a book by its cover. Why do you think they have covers? Why do you think they invest in putting shit that looks nice on the cover? It's because we do judge books by their cover.
Got a whole marketing team behind that cover to make you read the book.
Yeah.
Sean, you're the real Uberbench for having AIU on to support going to Subscribestar. I mean,
Hell
Devin was
yeah.
already on Subscribestar, and like again, definitely go over there. Link top in the description. I've been refreshing. I see some people migrating over there from time to time. So
Just do it.
do it. Let's see. Kurt Stabelazer says, "Love your content, gentlemen. Thanks for all you do. Longtime supporter of yours, Devin, on
Nice.
both Subscribestar and Censored.tv." Well, actually, he said Censored TV dot, but you know.
Well, I mean, he couldn't stick the landing, but I love the sentiment. That's so cool. Like I've never talked to that guy, and he's like, "I support you, man, and I like give you my money that I take it out of my child's mouth and I give it to you," and it's like, sweet.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy some people are migrating over. Obviously, it doesn't help. And like, granted, like Sargon's a good guy. I met him and all that. But when Sargon tweets and he says you should have left Patreon for
Yeah,
Subscribestar
exactly.
instead of like, hey, Devin's over on Subscribestar right
I
now.
know. Like Tim Pool sent one out, and he's like, "Why are people even on Patreon in the first place?" And he retweets me with that sort of snark and negativity. It's like, sorry guys, I had to like make a living, and I'm not a huge fan of Patreon. Just like I'm sure, I'm not a huge fan of what my bank does, like 100%. But I still need to like make a living.
Well, it's like why don't you build a complicated membership system that
Sure.
people subscribes to just for your website and your content, including your Chicken City videos, Devin?
Didn't Jordan Peterson say he was going to do that? And I don't think it ever
Dave
happened.
Rubin actually did do locals, and that apparently has a monetization element of it.
Okay. Fair
But
enough.
it's hard. The thing is with these alternative platforms, like you have to have, and this is with any platform, because I'm on Rumble, I'm on all these things. I tell people about it, but like the fact is, like less than 1% of your people will go over there.
Yeah.
So you have to keep doing that. You have to keep advertising it for them to go. And like Rumble's free. And I'm like, hey, I'm on Rumble. You guys leave me comments all the time. Join Rumble, join Odyssey. There, I'm over there. Go follow.
Mhm.
And almost nobody follows me over there. So it's
I
like,
know.
they're like, use the alternatives, but you had Subscribestar for years, and it was still over 1,000 people on Patreon and like a couple hundred on Subscribestar.
Yeah, something like that. And it's like, I think it's brand recognition, and it's the ease of use, and it's just popularity. And yeah, I mean, look, whatever works, guys. Like, obviously, I don't want to be censored, and it's bullshit, but like, I'm open to any solution. Like, Dick Masterson just contacted me and was like, "Hey, do this thing backed by," which is like a blockchain way of supporting people, and it uses crypto and whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'll sign up, I'll try it. Maybe that's a better solution. It's not even the platform; it's the numbers.
Yeah.
It's the bottom line. That's what it's. Cancel culture is. It's all about taking away your money. That's really the part that gets you.
Yeah, no, and like like I love the alternatives, and I want them to grow to be competitors with YouTube.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it doesn't.
So they're
It
not.
seems like you need to be Steven Crowder, who has
Yeah.
a giant following, to migrate them towards Rumble, and he has a giant following on YouTube and on Twitter and other places. Or you need to be, like you need to have a deal with Rumble for that to work. Like I don't know, like I haven't seen the Rumble star. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
look, to be fair to Steven Crowder, he had the Mug Club, which is like not Patreon. That's his own independent thing. He has his own credit card processors. Technically, he could have been banned by those dudes, but he has, lawyers and a whole team and millions of dollars. And so like Steven Crowder is going to be fine. What about a small time creator like me who has been hobbled time and time again from like, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube over and over again, and now Patreon? I'm the guy on the fringe who's going to get
Right.
bled to death financially.
And to be clear, like Crowder had the Blaze. Like the Blaze was actually running Mud Club. That's one of the problems he had in his contract negotiations, is that
Mhm.
they never told him how many Mud Club subscribers he actually had. So like they were doing it. So like basically, if you want to cut off Steven Crowder, you have to cut off the Blaze, which is one of the biggest online conservative media like companies. So like, you know, even he had a lightning rod above him.
Yeah, I mean, I need some backing. Like, I should join a gang, basically. I have no gang because no one wants to claim me because I don't line up with them politically or whatever. I'm not going to walk in and be like, "Hey, Daily Wire, give me a show. I'm an atheist lefty." Like, no, it's not happening.
Portland's so this guy says Portland's water reservoirs are open air and have been drained after being peed in. Oh my god.
Oh God.
Imagine just like Portland's like a beautiful city. Like
It
imagine
was.
just like having that city. Yeah, it was better tense. Imagine just having Portland and that your water supply just gets like urinated in to the point where you have to like completely fix it. Like it's gotten that bad.
Yeah, human beings are kind of nasty. Like, civilization is a fragile thing. We have to protect it. We got to keep it going. Otherwise, we get back to the animal kingdom pretty quick.
Human says hypothetically, if the white minority population in South Africa, or should I say, whatever that noise that Asian lady was making, were
That's-
violently prosecuted,
Mhm.
would excuses be made, or would it be widely condemned? I honestly like. I think that it would be another ignored like genocide if that's where it would go.
Yeah, well, right, because the underlying sentiment in the whole thing is, what are white people doing in Africa anyway? Like, how are you even justified to be there? So they don't understand. They've been there for generations. They have every right to be there. They're citizens. They like, you know,
Yeah.
they fight for the country. They earn for the country. They love their country. Yeah,
I
they just don't like the optics of it.
I have to read this super chat, but I can't put it up on screen. It's
Okay.
from Thomas in Pain. He says that Italian documentary also showed the Dinka tribe visiting the downtown area with a part of their face livestock.
Visiting the downtown area.
You know,
with the,
you know what you said Vosh wanted to do to the unicorn horn?
Yes. No. Come on.
Apparently that's in that documentary, which I was not aware of because I
Well,
watch it in clips. But it's
that's
on YouTube, which is very interesting.
another rabbit hole.
You know what's amazing about that documentary is they have a section on South Africa, and like listen, the whole time they show Africa as this like kind of wild place where there's like violence that goes on. Like there's a scene in it that they basically these like mercenaries that are mostly white hire black people to be in their like mercenary company, and they're like they're like well, like we can't stop them from stealing, so we made a rule that they can loot whatever they can carry, but only for one night after we take over a village, and like we will execute them if they steal after the first night. So you just see like a bunch of these
Oh my
guys
God.
like in the 70s just carrying like it's like you know it's the New Orleans, the guy pushing the TV through like the hurricane waters. Like,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
like what are you going to do with that basically? And so it goes from that. Then it shows you South Africa. And again, this is Italian perspective from the 70s. And the way they open up South Africa is like beautiful women jumping on a trampoline.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Slow motion?
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, this looks like a must watch. I mean, it's not on my radar, but now it is.
Oh, for sure. You definitely have to see it. Like you'll use clips from it every now and again. There's
Okay.
like an elephant hunt that may be the most brutal thing I've ever seen. And again, there's a genocide in that same documentary.
Jesus. I
All right,
love it.
we're almost at 2 hours. We're like 7 minutes away.
Okay.
So I do want to like wrap at the 2 hour mark because that way we'll be able to go up on Odyssey undisturbed and on Rumble because they have like
So-
a cap.
That's what we call a hard out.
Yes, but
Okay.
I want to give the floor to you for like final thoughts, final words,
Oh
and
God.
we'll go from elephant killing and South African women on trampolines
Mhm.
to your final statement for
Okay.
today.
My pledge is let me get my wits about me. If I cannot live up to your pledge over at Subscribestar or censored.tv, I have failed as a human. And I can guarantee you a personal promise from me to you that if you are not entertained sufficiently, if at the end of a month of watching my videos, and you have to watch every one, you have not laughed, enjoyed yourself, found value in what I create, I will personally come to you, wash your feet, kiss your feet, and hand you your money back in person. I will do it. It's going to take a lot of time. No, it's not going to take any time because none of you will do that. I challenge you, try me out. And if you don't like me, I'll give you your money back. Metaphorically. I will not actually give you your money back.
In the fine print, there's a no refund policy. Let's be clear about
Yeah,
that.
no, but you could leave at any time. Like the point is, we are creators who have a voice who try to fill in the gaps like that the mainstream media or our culture at large fail at, and they're failing a lot. So it's like a content rich environment for guys like me and Sean. And I'm trying my best. I would much rather feel safe and stable financially and have that support so that I can get on to doing what I want to do, which is create and like try to entertain. It is really actually traumatic to be told like, hey, you're not getting money, like your income's like destroyed. And to have no recourse with that, that has sucked. So as an FU to Patreon, as an FU to big tech, as an FU to censorship, send me your money. That's my pledge. Just it comes down to that.
Somebody's asking about classic content being available. There are ways to see the older videos. I believe alt censored.
Yes, altcensored.com. You type in atheism is unstoppable. Every video I've ever made is up there. I was gonna tell them to take it down and sell it altogether because I was like, I got banned from YouTube. What am I supposed to do? I'm like, I have thousands of videos, but I have stopped that because I'm too busy making stuff at censored.tv. But yeah, every video I've ever made is up there, and you can go enjoy them if you want.
And Devin produces a ton of content over at Censored and on Subscribestar, and you get access to it all with either one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just with Censored, half the money goes to Gavin. If you use promo code AIU, half goes to Devin, and you get the other stuff associated with Censored.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a win-win. I know times are tough and whatever, but fuck it. I'm in competition. I'm going up against Disney Plus and HBO and Netflix and porn. Okay, I'm better than porn. Not really, but I'm going to try. There's actually some porn in my videos, so you're not even missing out that much.
Look, I would say like right now, like I have sponsors. I'm able to be on YouTube and all that. So if you're if you're gonna decide like where to like spend your money, like pay for Devin's premium content. Like it's very high quality. It's very well edited. The guy does a music video for an intro and an outro. And like right now, I don't need like the pledges. Like I get like, those ads you see on my videos, like they pay me for those ads. I don't do them as a social experiment. Like Devin like needs to draw in more audience. And again, he's working too hard to like not get compensated, in my opinion.
There you go. Trust him. This is a man that knows his way around noble gold, about both, was it facial lines in your face aging?
Oh, it's a collagen powder. Healthy.
There you go. He kicks the tires, people. I mean, if he's gonna vouch for me, then that should have some weight. Come on.
I was actually very excited about I got Censored as a sponsorship. They're like a premium sponsor, and I was like, oh, people are gonna love this. But they don't give me any way of knowing like if they they don't give me any way of knowing how many people signed up for it. So like for all I know, like basically if they offer me the deal again next month, then maybe that somebody signed up for it.
Yeah, well, you're in the dark with that, but yeah. I mean, thank you, Sean. It's been very nice to chat with you. 2 hours flew by. I know we have the hard out coming up, but yeah, man, I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting me get my message out.
So the links are in the description. I linked Devin's Rumble video where he explains in 45 minutes his whole version of the story. You can follow him on Rumble. Like viable free platforms are great, but also like Subscribestar, Censor.tv, use promo code AIU, saves you money. And again, it's the only way to actually support him with your dollars. Like don't pay Gavin McGinnis 100% of the money.
He's a millionaire. He's a literal millionaire.
He founded Vice. He's done enough harm to the conservative movement by accident by founding Vice.
Nice.
All right. So I guess hard out.
Hard out, man. Take it easy. I'll see you in New York soon.
All right, will do. Later, man.
Later.
And